Hey guys, welcome back to another Mathin' with Coach Lynn. Today we're going to talk about relating fractions, decimals, and percents. This is lesson 2-3 in our Tennesssee Reveal Math book, and it begins on page 101. Our I can statement states that I can relate fractions, decimals, and percents by using place value reasoning and understanding a percent as a ratio that compares a number to 100. So down in our learn section we see by definition a percent is a ratio that compares a number to 100. The percent 35% compares 35 to 100 as the ratio 35 to 100. In fraction form, this ratio is 35 over 100, which means 35 hundredths. You can use the definition of percent equivalent ratios and place value reasoning to write percents as both fractions and decimals. So going forward through this lesson, we will look at converting fractions to decimals and percents, decimals to fractions and percents to fractions and decimals. In example 1 on page 102, we see that we're going to write percents as fractions and decimals. It says, in a recent survey, about 95% of smartphone users claim to send text messages. What fraction of smartphone users is this? And what decimal is this? Okay, so writing 95% as a fraction, we know that 95% means 95 per 100. So we get 95 over 100. And if we can, we want to simplify this fraction to its simplest form. Since 95 and 100 both end in either a 5 or a 0, we know they are divisible by 5. So if we divide them both by 5, we get 19 twentieths. So 95% is the same as 19 twentieths. In part B, we're going to write 95% as a decimal. Since we know 95% is 95 per 100, we have 95 over 100, which is read as 95 hundredths. So we can easily convert that to a decimal, which is 0.95, which is 95 hundredths. So in our check problem, we see a recent survey, 22% of email users claim to spend less time using email because of spam. What fraction of email users is this? What decimal is this? So 22%, we know right off the bat, we can write as 22 over 100, because 22% means 22 per 100. So I have fractions started, but it looks like I can simplify it. They're both even numbers, so I know I can at least divide them both by 2. And if I divide them both by 2, 22 divided by 2 is 11, and 100 divided by 2 is 50. Now looking at this, 11 is a prime number, so I know it can't be divided anymore. I can't simplify this fraction, so 22% is the same as 11 fiftieths. Well, since I know 22% is 22 over 100, or 22 hundredths, I can easily write the decimal, which is 0.22. On example 2, on page 104, it wants us to write fractions as percents and decimals. It asks us to write the fraction 6/8 as a percent and as a decimal. And we know in order for us to have a percent, we need to have a fraction over 100, because percent means per 100. And 6/8, we can't directly go to 100 because 8 is not a factor of 100. So we need to scale back using what we've learned from our ratios in module 1. If we divide them both by 2, we get 3/4. So 6/8 and 3/4 are equivalent. So now we can use that fraction to work up to find our percent. 4 times 25 is 100, so I'm going to do 3 times 25 and get 75. 75 over 100, 75 per 100, so I know 75%. Well, since I know 75% is 75 per 100, I can easily move that now and make 0.75 as my decimal, or 75 hundredths. My check below says write 4/16 as a percent and as a decimal. So we can start with 4/16. And I know I want it to eventually equal a number over 100, since percent means per 100. Now 16 is not a factor of 100, so I can't directly multiply 16 times anything to get to 100, so I'm going to need to scale back. I'm going to look at 4 and 16 and decide what I can divide them both by, and I know that 4 is a factor for both, so 4 divided by 4 is 1, and 16 divided by 4 is 4. Now that I've done that, I have 1/4, which is equivalent to 4/16, and I can move forward to find my percent. 4 times 25 is 100, so 1 times 25 is 25. So I end up with 25 hundredths. So I know 25 per 100, so 25%. And since I have 25 hundredths, I know this is also 0.25. On example 3 on page 105, it wants us to use mixed numbers and turn them into percents. So it tells us a cheetah is the fastest land mammal in the world. The peregrine falcon is the fastest bird in the world. The peregrine falcon's top speed is 2 9/10 times as fast as the top speed of the cheetah. What percent represents this value? So first, we're going to need to turn the mixed number into an improper fraction. Okay? So the way I like to do this is we have 2 9/10. I'm going to multiply my bottom number by my whole number. And 10 times 2 is 20. I'm going to add that to my top number. So 20 plus 9 is 29. And I keep the same denominator, so it's 29/10 is the same as 2 9/10. So now that I have that, I can work into turning it into a percent. And I know if I want a percent, I need a denominator of 100, because percent means per 100. 10 times 10 is 100. So 29 times 10 will give me 290. So since I have 290 hundredths, 290 per 100, we know it is 290%. Another way we can look at this is if I have 2 9/10, we can take what we've learned from lesson 1 and 2 with our 10 by 10 grids. And if we have 2 whole numbers or 2 whole grids, we know that is 200. So I can right off the bat take this 2 and know that that is 200%. And then all I need to do is convert the 9/10. Since I need to convert this to a percent, I know I need a fraction with a denominator of 100, because it's percent per 100. 10 times 10 is 100, and 9 times 10 is 90. So I already have 200%, and now I have 90%, because 90 per 100. And I'm just going to add these two together, since it's 2 9/10, 290%, so 290%. Either one of these methods will work, so whichever one you like, I encourage you to use. Now let's look at our check problem at the bottom of the page. It says, when a blue whale feeds, they can take in 1 1/25 times their body weight in food and water in one single gulp. What percent of their body weight is this? We know it's 1 1/25. And I'm going to work this using both methods. So the first method, let's do the improper fraction method. So 25 times 1 is 25, plus 1 is 26. We keep our denominator, so it's 26 25ths. I need to get to a denominator of 100, because per 100 for percent. 25 times 4 is 100. So I'm going to do 26 times 4, and I get 104. So it is 104 per 100, or 104%. If I do it the other way by pulling out my holes, I see I have one hole, so I have 100% for sure, and I'm left with 1/25. I just need to get that to a per 100. 25 times 4 is 100, and 1 times 4 would give me 4. So I have 4 per 100, which would give me 4%. So I have 100% and 4%, 104%. Now, at the bottom of page 106, we see example 4, which is writing decimals as percents and fractions. So it wants us to write 0.025 as a percent and a fraction. Well, the way we say this decimal is 25 thousandths, because we have a number all the way in the thousandths place. We know this is the tenths, hundredths, thousandths. So it's 25 thousandths. So we set it up as 25 over 1,000. I know that I need to have a fraction that has 100 on the bottom per 100, which is our percent. So in order for me to get there, I need to divide 1,000 by 10 to get 100. I'm going to do the same to my 25 divided by 10, and I get 2.5 over 100, 2.5 per 100. So it is 2.5%. And if I wanted to write it as a fraction, I would take my 25 thousandths, find a factor that they have in common. I can divide them both by 25. 25 divided by 25 is 1. 1,000 divided by 25 is 40. So it's 1/40th. So 1/40th, 2.5%, and 25 thousandths are all equivalent. In our check problem, it asks us to write 1.4 as a percent and a mixed number. We know it's going to be a mixed number because we have a whole. So we can start there. We have one whole, and we only have one place past the decimal, so that's a tenth. So we have 4 tenths. So from here, I can convert to find my percent. And I can do whichever method like we did in example 3. If I make it a mixed number, 10 times 1 is 10, plus 4 is 14 over 10, 14 tenths. I need a denominator of 100 to have my per 100 to get my percent. 10 times 10 is 100. So 14 times 10 is 140. So I have 140 per 100. So it's 140%. Now looking back at my 1 4/10, I could simplify this fraction. So 1 4/10, 4 and 10 can be simplified by 2. So 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 10 divided by 2 is 5. So it's the same as 1 2/5. Let's take a moment to look at our practice page on page 109 and work a few of these out. Number 1 asks us to write each percent as a fraction in its simplest form and as a decimal. So we have 45%. We know that that is the same as 45 per 100, because percent means per 100. Since they both end in a 5 or 0, I know that I can divide them both by 5. 45 divided by 5 is 9, and 100 divided by 5 is 20. So 45% is the same as 9/20. It's also the same as 0.45 or 45 hundredths, since I have 45 hundredths written when I first converted it. Number 5 says write each fraction as a percent and as a decimal. Well, if I want to write it as a percent, I'm going to need to convert to a fraction with a denominator of 100, since it's per hundred to find our percent. So I can make this an improper fraction. 4 times 1 is 4, plus 3 is 7. So I have 7/4. And it needs to equal a fraction over 100. 4 times 25 is 100. So 7 times 25 is 175. So now that I have 175 per 100, I know that this is 175%. Since I have 1 whole, I know my decimal will have 1 whole, so it'll be 1 point, whatever my 3/4 comes out to. So we can convert 3/4, or we can see here that 175, 100% is the same as 1 whole. So this will be 1.75, since it's 1 whole, 100%, and 75 more percent. Now let's look at number 7, where it wants us to write each decimal as a percent and as a fraction in its simplest form. So our decimal here, we have 0.89 or 89 hundredths. And for this one, we cannot simplify 89 100ths, so we will leave it as it is. Since it's 89 100ths, we know that's 89 per 100, which is 89%. Hopefully this information from this video has been helpful for you, helping you understand fractions, decimals, and percents. Take the information within this video and ace your assignments. Have a great day.